400 years ago, the English crown planted settlers in Ulster. Derry became a walled city, defended against the native Irish. The walls stood as stone reminders of conquest, of division, of two peoples forced to live side by side, yet never as equals. In 1921, Ireland was partitioned, a new border cut the island in two. Derry, a city with a nationalist majority, found itself under the rule of a unionist state. Power was kept through gerrymandering councils. Housing, jobs and vote all tilted to the one side. By the 1960s, patience had worn thin. Inspired by the civil rights struggles around the world, Derry's nationalists took to the streets. They marched not for conquest, but for equality. The response would push the city into decades of conflict. Right, so here we are in Derry, or Londonderry, depending on who you ask. So behind me are the Bishopsgate area of Derry. So these were built in the 17th century, and they were built by the British settlers to keep the Irish settlers out. And I think behind these walls really are, I suppose, the story of what lies behind and what lies outside are still very much topical today. But yeah, really nice. Inside these walls, then just inside, you have a Freemasons building, and you also have a Derry courthouse. So yeah, you can see that there's a very kind of administrative function just inside the walls. Some information boards just here, and we actually travelled from Donegal this morning, and you can tell that there's a big difference in just even the type of building materials used, moving from the Irish kind of grey rock or sandstone or kind of that colour material to the orange brick used by the British to build theirs. And you can see just down here there's a defensive kind of tower just built down here. I'll show you that. So, very cool. On these stones are the words of Derry's people, memories of soldiers on the streets, of families split by fear, of lives lost and lives forever changed. Each quote is a reminder that history here isn't distant, it is lived, remembered, and written into the very fabric of the city. From above, the walls still dominate Derry, 4 centuries old, built to guard the settlers within. The cannons now look over the Bogside, once the heart of resistance. Here, protests became battles. Stones and petrol bombs melt shields and bullets. These ramparts that once defended a garrison became silent witness to another siege, a modern one, fought not for land, but for equality and recognition. Right, so I'm standing here next to the Bogside Murals in the city of Derry. So you can see beside me there's a lot of murals here, and this area itself became very symptomatic and it was really the centre point of the troubles in Derry. They're all centred in a Catholic working class neighbourhood here in the Bogside, and a lot of them are depictions of protests, civil rights, and you can see on a lot of the telephone poles and lighting poles there's Irish tricolours, so you can see where their allegiance lie here. It's with the Republic of Ireland as opposed to even Northern Ireland. So yeah, it's very interesting. So just up here you can see the actual city walls. And Fiona, you can see the city walls just up here. So we walked from there, and you can just see there, that's the Bloody Sunday memorial, to commemorate, that was painted to commemorate the 25th anniversary of Bloody Sunday and the 14 lives lost on that day. And if you know anything about the Irish, they support the Palestinian fight for liberty, and certainly since very far back along, the IRA and Catholic populations in Northern Ireland have associated themselves with the Palestinian struggle for freedom as well. So we're just walking along the Bogside there, and you would have seen some images earlier of me passing the Free Derry Corner. So that's where in January 1972 British paratroopers would have opened fire, and they would have shot and killed 14 unarmed civilians, and that's why it's been given the name the Free Derry Corner. And I suppose, look, it stands to symbolise what's happened before, but also what it is presently, and a fight for struggle, and it'll stand that way for a long time. And I think still to this day you see tricolours and Palestinian flags, and the locals here still associate themselves with struggles throughout the world.
Any remaining vestige of trust that the people here may have retained in British Army impartiality and justice has now completely evaporated, and the cold logic with which they're putting forward this contention is based on the single simple fact, as they see it, that 13 of their men and boys were shot dead by the British soldiers here yesterday, that not a single British soldier was shot or injured by a bullet, this despite the fact that the British are persistently claiming that these men were shot by the people of the Bogside as they came in, shot first. The casualty, the death figures and the injury figures alone are sufficient, according to the people here, to support their case of willful murder by the British Army here in Derry yesterday. And now this is Derry today.
Catholic, Protestant, English, should be just appalled, isn't the word. It's so terrible. I just can't express my feelings. I couldn't sleep last night. Any half-civilized person must have felt sick as could be yesterday when they saw dead bodies lying around the place, innocent people lying on the ground being shot by British troops, just coldly murdered. I mean, it makes you think that what is the whole point? Christians, the wild animals out in the jungle wouldn't have been any worse. Words really fail me. You know, you could use appalled, stunned, but what's 14 people dead? Words don't bring them back. 14 innocent people. They were not on the wanted list. They were not gunmen. They were not petrol bombers. They were people. It could have been me. It could have been my wife. It could have been my family. It could have been anybody here. It could have been any people. There were lots of people out of that protest yesterday who never have broken even the most minor law in their lives. Perfectly good, honest, law-abiding, even British law and order, which is not a very good law and order. They even kept it. And it could have been them. Apparently, as far as actually any person who moved up from the ground was shot yesterday. And whether they were facing the British Army or had their backs turned to them, it didn't matter.
Right, so here I am on the Peace Bridge, which connects the Bogside Catholic area to the Protestant area of Derry. Unbelievable views. So it was built in 2011, and I suppose it's a symbolic gesture, it's a physical gesture of peace. Whether locals accept it, the divisions probably still run very, very deep for a lot of locals, and a bridge isn't going to heal that. But I suppose it's an effort, and it's not is it a symbolic effort? I'm not so sure. That's for locals to tell you. I'm just a tourist here for the day. And in the background you can see the Guildhall. Yeah, and it's a beautiful city. It's had probably the best artwork I've ever seen in a city. The Bogside and the Freedom Gallery, it's absolutely incredible, like the detail, the amount of them. Yeah, really fantastic, and just overall. But you do see there's a real gritty, grimy sense of struggle in the Bogside, I think. So it's pretty windy up here on the bridge. I hope it's not messing with the noise too much. But yeah, I mean, we've walked around the main spots. It's probably taken us less than an hour and a half so far, and that's probably all you'd need, depending on whether or not you wanted to visit all the museums and things like that. But if you're just casual watchers on like myself, I think an hour and a half is perfectly fine. Enter it into Google Maps and ask it to bring you around to all the main parts or the main tourist places. But you do see quite a gritty, grimy, slightly impoverished side to the Catholic side anyway.
Ministers emerged just before 6 this evening to inaugurate the historic agreement they hope will usher in a new era for the island. There was praise for the Taoiseach and for the parties from Tony Blair, who paid tribute to all who had lost their lives in the conflict, suggesting that the nature of today's deal would change relationships in Northern Ireland forever.
The principle of consent is absolute and is throughout the agreement. And the breakthrough is that is now accepted by all, North and South. Also, those who believe in a united Ireland can make that case now by persuasion, not violence or threats.
A view echoed by the Taoiseach.
My ultimate political aspiration remains the coming together of all the people of Ireland, achieved peacefully and by consent. I value deeply the close relationship between the Irish government and the British government. But I look forward equally to a new era of friendship and reconciliation between Unionists and Nationalists, in which each tradition can learn truly the value of the other.
The last 4 days have been among the most difficult of Bertie Ahern's life. Inside the Talks complex there was praise and sympathy.
Thank you for all you did. It's a very difficult week, very difficult stage.
And everywhere there was joy and congratulations, and also relief that a critical and difficult set of negotiations were at an end. There were farewells for the main participants and others less directly involved, and a universal feeling that it couldn't have happened without the commitment of Senator George Mitchell and the persistence of others. David Davenpower, RTE News.
Here I am outside the Guildhall, and that's an end to my trip to Derry, or Londonderry, depending on what side of the foil you live. Yeah, absolutely eye-opening. I think you look either sides of the water and you see different realities, and this place forces you to look at history straight in the face, and it's a completely different history to what I'm used to down in the Republic. You can see the battle scars, you can see memorials, but it's the troubles are certainly very real, although we would have heard of them down in the south and they would have been on the news, not so much when I was growing up, a bit before me. They live a far different reality up here, and they certainly don't identify themselves as British in the Catholic quarters, or even with Northern Ireland. The Irish tricolours flown in everywhere. They associate themselves with a lot of struggles going on throughout the world, most notably at the moment Palestine, but certainly an eye-opening city, and probably one of the bloodiest cities in Northern Ireland, and one with one of the most interesting pasts, and it's expressed really good and nice with art. So yeah, that is the end.